It must have been more. Wait, oh, I see. I got page 3. You got 15 minutes to tell me what you all. Here, please. I think copies of some of this stuff.
Okay. Minimize this and just close that now. Because what's happening is it's looping back there, you know. Open that up again. Okay, good. And then you just need to watch for long.
Okay. Change time.
We have 2 of those.
Just this one. I got a 3, so I'm gonna get 3. That's an old one. What else did you pass? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi there. I can hear you. I can't see you, but you're in the group now.
7:35. Business and education tax amendment.
You minimize that? That's how I did it the other day, I think. Well, thank you, Sandy.
Get a panelist.
And it just wouldn't do it.
I'm gonna have when we're at other organization announcements. I'd like to make 2 things from Canal towns.
Okay. We're down there.
Number 5.
Good evening, Town Council. I want to call to order the March 14, 2022 Harpers Ferry Town Council meeting to order. All members of the council are present. Laurel is streaming. The rest of the council are physically present. Would you read the obligatory, Christian?
Sure. Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing and delivery bodies will be holding its meetings and/or hearings virtually through Zoom, which provides for public participation during the public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch meetings by YouTube, video, live stream, or listen by telephone. These options comply with the Open Governmental Meetings Act.
Thank you, Christian. Any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion from Christian. I have a second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Public comment, I understand there is none. Mayor's announcement, I just have 2. First is just for information. Christy Huddle shared this with Town Hall. I signed it. Recognizing April 30th as Arbor Day. So hopefully, I don't know if Christy and the tree committee and Tyler have anything special planned, but if they do, I'd like to know about it. That's a very active group, and that's a very, very important group when we celebrate Arbor Day. It's an important event throughout the country, so I really appreciate that. The only other announcement that I have is that last week, I believe it was Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, or Thursday, I forget. I attended a meeting at the Ransom Civic Center regarding EMS service, emergency medical service in Jefferson County. The meeting was in response to a study that was commissioned by the Jefferson County Commission to review EMS services in the county and then provide an assessment with possible recommendations or courses of action. This was a approximately, I believe, a little over $30,000 study that the county commission did with a goal, like I said, of specifically looking at the efficiencies of EMS services in Jefferson County, and along with the associated costs for that. I will say that the attendees at the meeting included all five municipal mayors. Steve Stollifer, pardon me, who is the president of the Jefferson County Commission, was present. There were numerous EMS officials there, numerous fire officials, and numerous law enforcement police officials attending. One of the proposed recommendations in the study is to move Harpers Ferry EMS service from 100 feet away from us to Charlestown. I want everybody to know that both Helen Detmer from Bolivar and myself strongly objected to this proposal, basically citing the additional time for response for an expedited EMS vehicle traveling and responding to Harpers Ferry or Bolivar in an emergency. And time is of the essence, particularly with cardiovascular issues, particularly coming into Harpers Ferry. Can you imagine an EMS coming in from Charlestown on a Friday evening, a Saturday evening, a Sunday evening, or any holiday in the summertime, trying to wind their way through the traffic on 340? So again, Helen and I strongly objected to it. All the other mayors strongly objected to the total proposal. The mayor of Shepherdstown was very eloquent in his objection to this. He strongly objected also. The majority, if not all of the attendees, EMS officials and fire and police, also objected to changing any of these procedures of increasing response time. And as I believe what they're trying to do is to consolidate EMS services in a couple central points. And so anyway, that was basically all that I know about it. There will be initial meetings on this. The county commission has not, and let me repeat that, has not made any decisions yet. They are just listening to, last week they listened to the EMS, fire, police, and mayoral positions on this. There will be additional meetings coming up on this, but I personally believe that our combined voices in there were heard loud and clear by the county commission. I don't know, Kevin, if you have anything you want to add on it? Okay. Christian?
I was going to add, I want to make sure you all at least know the topic well. The Fitch report was given verbally, so I watched the entire presentation. I believe it's also in written form, so you can avail yourself of the facts from this study. Also, Tim Cook did an excellent story in the spirit, thinking about future ambulance service. Highly recommended. He's a very balanced reporter, and in this case, I thought he was trying to kill both sides. So I just recommend just getting to know the topic better. Right.
Certainly, with 20 or 30,000 people visiting Harpers Ferry on a weekend, that seems.
I think, Storm, there was one member of the meeting there. It was not from the Spirit, and it was not from Martinsburg. Is there something called the Observer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It was a representative from the Observer that was there. So they're probably, well, I don't know when that paper comes out, so it'll probably be representative. Okay. That's all I had. Approval of minutes. February 14, you have those before you. Any changes, additions, deletions to the meetings of February 14? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve from Jim. I have a second. I have a second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion approved? Thank you. Second, Kevin. Thank you. Meeting minutes from February 28, 2022. Additions, deletions, motion to approve, motion from Chris, second on the motion. We have a second from Jim. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve? Thank you. Everybody, Kevin? Keep turning.
Yeah, she's good.
Treasury report. Treasurer's report. I'm sorry,
All right.
financial officer's report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Financial report we have this evening for the end of January 22, which is 58% of our fiscal year 22. The general report, this general report is prior to the budget revision that you made last month. That revision will be incorporated into next month's report. Our income less our carry forward amount of $1,094,000 is $975,257. So our operating income as of the end of January represents 74.7% of budgeted income for the year. Our operating expenses, therefore, are at approximately 54% of the budgeted operating expenses for the year. The budget revision made for the waterworks in January is reflected in this month's financials. These financials still reflect the purchase and installation of the early warning detection system, but not the reimbursement, which we are still waiting on. I have contacted the state once again. They have reassured me that this reimbursement is on the way. Actual income does not include the $97,228 online 481 reimbursements, which is the soft cost reimbursement from our loan to assist with the flood removal and to provide cash flow until the second tranche of ARPA money arrives this summer. This, along with the ARPA monies that are located in 421A, will fund the Elkhorn main replacement. Making adjustments for those unrealized items, our revenue is 48.5% of the budgeted revenue. Line 461, customer billings is at 51.1%, and that's a bit lower than we would like to see. On the other hand, it is winter, and we have had a rate increase. So Charlie and Cartelli and I did a cursory review of our February income, and we're going to dive into this a little deeper next month too, as we close out the February, well, this month, as we close out February. We should be considering an adjustment.
Isn't the January bill a copy of the December bill? Because they weren't able to.
Yeah, that you're right. There was also the estimation. But we did do a quick look at what it's going to look like for February when we close it out, and we're still like, nah, we'd like to see it a little bit higher. So we're just going to dive into it a little bit to see if we need to consider a course correction here. And we may just wait another month too till spring starts picking up. But I'll give you an update next month. And our operating expenses are at 46%, excuse me, of the budgeted expense. So any questions that I can help you with at this time? Laurel, did you hear all that?
It is a little difficult to hear, but I recognize just because you're facing the other way only.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, in the mask, sorry. Okay.
Oh, I know, it's just difficult.
I know we covered this before, and I apologize, but can you remind me what on the general budget, non-water, what is that miscellaneous income that is at 74% right now?
Okay, that one is our parking permits. 36 to the line 327.
We want to see.
No, it's a larger one. 399.
399 miscellaneous. Oh, so that is truly miscellaneous revenue, and that is actually where our reimbursement for legal fees that the town paid for the street agreement were paid back to us for the street disagreement from Swan, and that didn't come, it should have really come in last fiscal year, but it came in this fiscal year, and it's really, it's a miscellaneous, we don't really have a place for it, it's a reimbursement. I mean, reimbursement would be the other place for it, and, we may consider moving it there, but at the moment, we put it in this one.
Okay, that helps, thank you.
Any other questions for Deb?
Okay. Next is the purchases, over the purchasing threshold. Did everybody get the list? Questions on that?
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials.
I move to approve financials through January 2022.
Second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Like 7-5. Yeah, we're also going to need a separate approval for the checks over the purchasing threshold for approval. You have this document or on your, on review there, text that we have it on your computer.
When I approve the budget. That's.
Okay.
You put the financials just a
So
second. Yeah.
there was a question that this may not have been included. That's what I thought.
That's, you're right. Saying we do.
I was confused. I thought that the vote was on the purchasing.
Yeah, and then the mayor went forward and said,
And you were
and
correct.
then I looked at the recorder and he's going like this. And the motion is going like this. So let's take this one and let's make it a separate approval, okay? Somebody.
I move to approve the approval of the invoices and purchases over the threshold, the purchasing threshold.
Thank you, Christian. Second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion. All right, now we can go.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello?
There you are. Okay, you're up.
Are you ready for me to present? Yeah, good evening, Council. Hopefully everybody's enjoying this beautiful weather that we're having today and got to enjoy some of it with the families and all. For February 2022 report for the month, we've had 1 accident, 0 call-outs, 5 assists, 43 citations, and 81 incidents. We assisted Jefferson County Sheriff's Department twice, and we assisted Charlestown Police Department 3 times with calls. I would like to also say hopefully we don't receive any more snow, and that's over and done with for the year. And I would like to also thank the budget and finance team that I met with a couple weeks ago when I presented the fiscal year for 2023. I believe it went well. I hope I presented it clear enough and easy enough for everybody to understand what I'm trying to accomplish for the department, the officers and the equipment and requirements that I'm supposed to have for the department. So I just wanted to thank everybody for listening to me. Storm, Councilmember Storm and Councilmember Drake and Councilmember Christian, I appreciate that. Like I said, I believe it went well, and hopefully we can meet some of them goals that I'm trying to accomplish for the department. Is there any questions or any concerns that anybody wants to address with me at this time?
Council?
No, thank you, Chief. Thank you for making it so clear.
Any other questions for the chief? Okay, thank you, Chief, for taking time with us this evening.
Sir.
Hey, he's out of there. We're out there. He hesitated, he's out.
Yeah.
Breathe direct.
Okay, you have, Kevin Hamilton's report. If any of you have any questions, I can relay them and get your answer, Kevin. If not, it's always straightforward this month.
Oh, that's it. The person wants to do that wall.
This is the, that is the issue on Henry Clay.
But we consider that a wall or a fence.
This one covered in the ordinance.
It's a wall and I'll be reporting on that, the planning, under planning as well.
Okay.
Okay, budget and finance. Committee report. I don't know who has that. Who had that or is?
Ooh,
I wasn't,
we didn't have an item under it, but basically, we're meeting tomorrow. I'll just give you some future stuff. We've already listened to pretty much all our external vendors and internal departments regarding budget requests for 2023. So we've heard those. And tomorrow, Budget and Finance will be meeting tomorrow afternoon to start going through them. Remember, Deb and I went and spoke to one of the vendors today, this morning. So we're working on these requests and getting more clarification and where there's some give and take. And then Friday, we're going to, the Budget and Finance Committee is going to be the entity that's going to look at the bids for the settlement tanks at the water department, the water plant, and we'll be looking at the bids.
Yeah. I think we'll need to have a special town council meeting at the last week of this month, March, so that we can approve the fiscal 23 budget and can get in cheaper for that. We don't know exactly when that's going to be. We'll look at, after we have our meeting tomorrow, we'll send out information for everyone to come up with, to agree on dates. And then please also remember tomorrow is the third Tuesday in April to write a letter. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Third Tuesday.
8/19.
Yes.
Third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday, yeah. Well, I mean, as long as there's nothing else on the agenda, it'll be a short meeting, or just be officially approving what you already approved at the end of March.
On the 19th,
April.
everybody.
April, yeah.
I may be able to catch that. France. Yes.
Anything else, Christian?
No, that's it. And by the way, we got our full complement of people back.
Full power.
Full power.
Full staff.
Full staff.
All right, that's what I like. Water Department. General report from the Water Commission. Laura.
Yes. The Water Commission welcomes its third member, Donnie Hampshire, who is a native of Harpers Ferry. Donnie can recall life in Harpers Ferry when water came from cisterns and the sewer system came from septic tanks, which were not as good as they are now. His knowledge and experience from growing up and working in Harpers Ferry, we feel, will be invaluable. We welcome him. We are also interested in having more members added. The Harpers Ferry ordinance allows us to have a total of 6 members, and we have 3 members right now. Of the 3 members to be added, 2 would come from Harpers Ferry, and the third would come from the water district outside the municipalities of Bolivar and Harpers Ferry. So anyone who is listening or knows someone who might be interested, they can apply and show interest by sending their interest to the town clerk. The construction of the new water plant continues right alongside the operation and processing of water at the old plant. The transfer from the old electrical lines to new ones took place recently. As each part gets finished, it is integrated into the current operation of the plant. And in other news for customers of our water district, our water clerk is using her expertise to bring about 2 new customer options. One is paperless billing, which means the customer can receive their bill by email. And the other is direct payment of customer accounts by debiting the customer bank account. She will be giving the details of how customers may sign up for these options soon on our website, on our town website, and also in a billing insert. Customers can still use their current method of receiving the water bill in the mail and making payments the same way they have always done if they like. And that's my report. That's all. Any questions?
Well, thank you, Laura.
Sure.
Debbie, is that yours?
Not the engineer report. I can,
Please.
we just find you the next one. Sometimes you will,
Yeah.
the engineer report.
Laura, you want to do the engineering report?
Well, I've been, the thing is, we have decided to just mention the parts that we feel that the public is interested in and not read it verbatim as it has been done in the past. So I have brought in a part of it in my report, and I think Chris Steyer will probably do the same in his report.
Okay. Okay. All right, Debbie, so discussion action resolution number 12.
Right, this is resolution number 12, the town of Harpers Ferry approving invoices related to construction and other services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harpers Ferry has reviewed the invoices attached here to and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, and find as follows. 1, that none of these items for which payment is proposed have been requested from another source. 2, that each item for which the payment is proposed paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes a cost of the project. 3, that each of such costs has been otherwise properly incurred. 4, that payment for each of the items proposed is due and owing. Now therefore be it resolved by the town council of Harpers Ferry that the payment of the attached invoices as below are hereby authorized and directed. Coin Docks and Informant, $25,432.50. And Alvarez contractors, $235,104.47 for a total of $260,536.97.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, we need a motion to approve resolution number 12 that Debbie just read.
I move to approve resolution number 12 and payment for pay application number 11 as presented.
Do I have a second on the motion? I have a second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Discussion action on amendment number 4 to engineer agreement. I got it right here.
Oh, yeah, okay, so this is, the second, this takes us through, the end of June, for our RPR, resident project representative. So we had originally, added 60,000 out of the contingency fund, we've now added, this is added an additional 44,500. I've also gone back and checked with the engineer and a little bit also about the costs after we get to substantial completion. And, you know, from the estimations that we have thus far, still, you know, if everything just rides tight, still may have a wee bit left in our contingency fund, so. Right.
This is the amount I think we had discussed last month.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So we're going to need a motion to approve amendment number 4.
I move to approve amendment number 4 to the owner engineer agreement for the water treatment plant upgrade project as presented.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? 5-0, Kevin. Chris, are you online?
Yeah, yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, I left my report a little bit brief, because I know you guys have a lot to get to. The water loss for the month of February was 18.46%. This is the lowest it's been since last September. This is partly due, the leak repairs we have made have finally paid off. Most of the trouble spots, for some reason or another, have been near the middle school. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. One repair, we replaced a 12-foot section of extremely eroded galvanized 3/4-inch water line. That was on Spring Street. We're probably going to have to replace more up there. Well, we'll definitely have to replace more up there. But in any case, that leak in itself probably accounted for a good chunk of our recent water loss. Oscar is up and running again. Yes. So the warmer weather, even though it's been that cold spell hit us, we've been having warm enough weather to actually get started with Oscar. And so we have him up and running. We have it set up now so that we have the excavator right next to Oscar. So when one person, if necessary, can take the bags on and off and dump them into the dumpster. You know, it's usually a 2-man job, but it's just the bags are so heavy that we had to find some other form of transportation on that. And yes.
For the members of the town council and any members of the public listening, would you explain what Oscar is?
I am so sorry. Oscar is the sludge, is our sludge remover. It's a bagger press that removes the sludge out of our backwash pit. It's a permanent structure that we'll be using even after we have all the sludge removed that's coming up. So I went ahead and named it Oscar. I apologize for that. I've gotten so used to calling it Oscar. Yeah. The electric power, it's already been mentioned, but it's just so important. It's that switchover allows all the little new parts of the plant to spring to life, and that's a good thing. So we're waiting on some parts up at the preset basin, but we're and we knew we would be. We're basically, I think it's at a 5-week. We're behind because of delays that are unavoidable. We're basically about 5 weeks behind, and that's just on part delays, and that's something to be expected, especially with the COVID and everything that's been going on, and supplies and demand are extremely high right now. And that's about it for me.
Questions for Chris? Chris?
I just had a comment, and it's as much for Laurel and the Water Commission as it is for Chris. Chris and I were both on the Bolivar Council meeting at the beginning of this month, and he did a great job of a report, but there were a lot of concerns expressed by Bolivar Council members about water. They felt like they just haven't gotten updates, and one of the things that came out of that I thought would be helpful would be providing the council in Bolivar the monthly engineers report. And also, Laurel, if you could talk to the Bolivar representative now that he's kind of in the running into the regular meetings now, if he can report back. I think we have mainly good news to share about the water plant and what's going on with water. And I think they would appreciate hearing from him.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes,
Okay,
I
Go ahead,
talked,
Laurel.
I talked to somebody on the Bolivar Council about that. And they are also going to talk to the Bolivar rep about making a report to them. Yeah. But they would like that.
Good. Thanks, Laurel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
The ORC Ordinance Review Committee, I guess, Kevin, you have the next three?
I do. The ordinance review committee met this past week and we reviewed 3 ordinances, which you have on the agenda tonight. The first one is ordinance number 2022-01, an ordinance amending part 13 of the codified ordinances of Harpers Ferry, setting requirements, restrictions, and certain exemptions for construction and replacement of fences and retaining walls, and setting regulations for temporary construction. As you know, this has been an issue that's been before the town council, the ordinance review committee, the planning commission, and other bodies for the past 6 years, since 2016. And the hope that the ordinance that we have before you tonight is to everyone's satisfaction, so that we can finally have a fence ordinance in place. I do have one change to the ordinance that you received in the packet, and that's on the paper that I distributed to the council. This highlighted in yellow here. This change was actually recommended by the ordinance review committee this past week, and I forgot to add it into the ordinance before it was distributed to you all before tonight. And that change is in 1304.02A3, change to say fences and retaining walls bordering town right of way may be installed up to but not over the property line. Fences and retaining walls bordering other private property may be installed up to but not closer than 2 inches from the property line. And for a little bit of explanation of the changes that were made between last month and this month, Chris, would you like to?
Sure. We were responding to David Simmons' concerns, and also the mayor and I both had concerns about the joint ownership of fences on the property line between 2 neighbors. And while our lawyer had looked at that and thought that it had been addressed, we thought that it also might add some complications that weren't really necessary. So this change would allow on the property line when it is bordering public property, but between 2 neighbors, you can only build up to 2 inches from that property line, avoiding the joint ownership issue.
So it's not all documentation concerns and.
Yes, and last month, there would have been a number 4 there with that whole maneuver of joint ownership. We deleted that now, and also reworded a couple of other places where it comes up.
I think it's clean.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just need to motion and second for approval if it's satisfactory.
Approve ordinance number 2022-01.
Did you say first reading?
No. Say first reading. The first reading of ordinance number 2022-01. Sorry.
That's okay. Second on the motion, second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, first reading? Kevin?
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years was such a short.
The next ordinance you have before you is one that Mayor Vaughn had proposed to the ordinance review committee, and this actually began in 17. On an ordinance similar to this at that time, and Mayor Bishop had spoken about an ordinance like this, but it never moved beyond that stage. So now the ordinance review committee is very pleased to present this ordinance to council for approval tonight. This is ordinance number 2022-02. An ordinance to amend the codified ordinances of Harpers Ferry defining vacant and uninhabitable structures and how they are determined. Creating a vacant structures board and a registry of vacant structures, providing for enforcement of corrective actions and rights of appeal, and regulating the use of registry fees. And Ron, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. This is a recently approved state authorization. I forget how many years ago this was put in to incentivize negligent property owners. We have a few in Harpers Ferry that we need to get a better handle on. Obviously, ordinances that are uninhabitable. We have a public safety issue regarding drugs and fire and everything else when you have vacant uninhabitable properties with break-ins and that. And then the vacant structures is another incentivization, I guess, if that's a word, for property owners to provide them an avenue to make their properties, to bring it up to minimum standards. This is a very common ordinance throughout the state of West Virginia. Some of our neighboring jurisdictions have that, Charlestown, Martinsburg. Another big one that uses it quite a bit is Wheeling. Of course, they're much larger than us, but they really rely on this to control uninhabited structures and vacant structures. So I highly recommend you consider approving this on the first reading.
I might mention we made two little tweaks. The wording that you presented to us. One is to make sure that uninhabitable structures would include non-residential, commercial or churches or anything. And so we changed in a couple of spots, we changed human occupancy to human use. And the other one was where it goes into the removal and demolition process. We felt that our ordinances really don't address non-contributing structures very well in that. It's something we may need to tighten up at some point. So we tried to make that language a little bit more general and rather than listing all of the procedures that you have to go through for approval.
Thanks for your hard work.
I just said, just by the way, excellent work. I read through it. It was something else. I think it's about time that had this type of ordinance. I wanted to just bring up, we got an email from Barbara Humes, who's a former town council member, and she just had a question here, so I figured we should just, I think this is a good time to discuss it. She says, during the discussion tonight in the meeting, could someone say whether Swan-owned properties are subject to the ordinance?
That's the question, does it apply to every structure that's within the town's jurisdiction?
But Swan, as I understand state code, or the Department of Commerce, I believe, is controlling this. Our ordinances do not apply within the T.
But they have outside, they have other properties.
Yes.
Yeah,
so of course.
And so they would, of course, be a part of this.
Anything outside of TDD.
Okay. Absolutely. I just want people to know that, and that, I believe
And
answers
it's a
the
good
question.
question from Barbara.
It is.
I will mention something else here. We had some questions for our town attorney considering this. One was about the corrective actions, and it says when appropriate, reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals, and there have been some questions recently about the powers of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Our attorney said the Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to hear appeals of orders made by an administrative official, blah, blah, blah. I can send this to you, but his determination was, this appeal could go to the, it does not contravene state code. The other was about, would there be any conflict with West Virginia's tax auction procedures, and what, which would have priority if both are initiated? And that's referenced in 1759.03F and 1759.90. And his opinion was that it's fine. The ordinance is fine.
Two questions, one kind of broad and one specific. One, just because I'm not familiar, from where was this ordinance drawn primarily?
3 or 4 other municipalities, Martinsburg, Charlestown, Wheeling. 2 other ones that I researched, and they're all basically saying the same thing. They're all basically following code to the West Virginia code.
Thank you.
It's a serious problem. I hear a lot of news from the Capitol in Charleston. There are lots of issues with delinquent, derelict buildings, and we've got lots of them.
And the second one, just, I don't think this is the intent of this particular clause, but under uninhabitable E4, it seems to read that you can even have, say, a light fixture that isn't completely affixed, and that could trigger uninhabitable, where it says any portion of the structure or any member I can't even pronounce that, or ornamentation on the exterior is not of sufficient strength or stability. It's not anchored, attached, or fastened in place so as to be incapable of resisting natural or artificial loads upon the original design value. It doesn't sound like that is meant to apply to things like a small external fixture. But could you explain what that clause is intended for?
The way I was reading it was that that ornamentation was applying to something that's hanging off, ready to collapse, and is a danger.
Well, like a gargoyle, then simply a doorknob.
Right.
Got it.
Right. Yeah. If it's in danger of falling down and honking someone on the head, that's what we're talking about, I believe. And to me, the language was pretty clear in that way.
No, that's great. That's just a term of art that I'm not familiar with. Thank you.
I have a question as well.
Go ahead, Laura.
Do you feel like this ordinance addresses how in many of our houses, there's a cistern? And in fact, one was discovered in one of the older properties in our town, and no one even knew it was there, and it was open. Does it address that as part of being uninhabitable and dangerous and needing to be? Does it address cisterns basically in our houses?
Yeah,
as part?
I think that would fall under attractive nuisance, like anything on the property that's a structure that could be considered a hazard that could attract children or anybody else to it.
Okay.
I think that's fairly covered in here, Laurel. Maybe not the term cistern being specifically used, but I think in general, those kinds of things are fairly specific in here, pointing those types of deficiencies out. I mean, I'm comfortable with not using the term specific to cisterns, if that's your concern.
Yeah, my concern is just that it should cover it as something that needs to be attended to by the owner of the property in some way, that it be the property owner's responsibility to make sure it is not dangerous.
Yeah, Laurel, I think if it were a cistern that were covered up and protected and not a hazard, it's probably not going to be a concern with.
Yes, totally. Yeah, that's right. If it's covered up, that's right. The problem is when it's not covered or when it's accessible. As we found in a recent property in our town limits, we found a cistern that was not covered and was open. When it was, so, but I agree with you, Chris. If it's covered and the owner takes due responsibility to cover and make sure it's not a hazard, that's exactly what we want. Yes.
Yeah, our our ordinance officer caught it.
In fact, I'll read the clause I was thinking of. It's number 7 under, well, it's a number 7. The structure is neglected, damaged, dilapidated, unsecured, or abandoned as to become an attractive nuisance to children who might play in the structure to their danger, become a harbor for vagrants, criminals, or immoral persons, or enable persons to resort to the building or structure for committing a nuisance or unlawful act. So it's not confined to just being a structure that someone would live in, but any
Okay.
structure that could be considered abandoned.
Yeah, I can see that what you're saying, if the structure, if they haven't taken their care of their cistern, then that would be considered unsecured and could be a danger to, say, children who play in it. That's exactly
Yes.
it.
That's
Okay,
how I read that clause.
I feel satisfied with that.
Thanks, Laura. Good point. Okay, let's entertain a motion to approve first reading on 2022. There's a motion, I guess, from Jim to approve first reading for 2022-02. A second on the motion. Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion. Okay.
I have some questions.
Okay, the last one we have before you is ordinance number 2022-03, an ordinance to amend Article 735 of the codified ordinances of Harpers Ferry, providing for a temporary special event vendor license. And this was sent to us by staff, I believe on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and after a conversation with the mayor, I understand. And the paper that I distributed to you before the meeting this evening should have been included in our draft that we had as the review committee, but it was not. And so I'm hoping that we can approve this ordinance with that addition tonight. That section of 735.04 that says, except that no tax shall be imposed on any person with gross income of $10,000 or less during that person's tax year for state income tax purposes, was written for the purpose of allowing the business to participate in an event without having to obtain a Harpers Ferry business license. Currently, vendors that participate in the Flip-Flop Festival or Old Time Christmas, for example, are required to obtain a Harpers Ferry business license. Requesting these types of vendors to obtain a license for an often one-time use is difficult, as they need to fulfill our requirements of obtaining a West Virginia State Business Registration Certificate, and they must file B&O tax reports for the entire year, often with a 0 report. Also, as stated in the article, the person's tax year for the state and our fiscal year do not coincide, making this a potential accounting challenge. Therefore, we would like that portion of the sentence removed. The new section 735.39 is the section that specifically creates temporary special event vendor licenses. And if Pat is on, she may like to speak about that. Pat, you okay?
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So in the office, we get a lot of phone calls of people. It's picking up where they want to do an event in Harpers Ferry. It could be a marathon. It could be a wedding at the gazebo. And as we mentioned, the Flip-Flop Festival and actually Old Time Christmas, the vendors should also be getting their Harpers Ferry business license. So I've been working with the Flip Flop group right now, and she's asking about the licenses. And I did a little research with Martinsburg, Charlestown, Percival, and someplace else. And I found that they do have a clause for a special event type of permit. And so I found the language short and sweet that I presented to the Ordinance Review Committee, that maybe we could mirror. And then what that would do would be anyone having an event could follow this program where they would they would submit a event planning registration form, which I'm working on. And then each vendor that would be under their umbrella would also pay a participation fee, but they would not, it would exempt them from having to get the Harpers Ferry business license. We have also talked about minimizing how many times this one-off type of vendor could participate, because if someone's going to say there were 4 events throughout the year and they were going to participate in each one, and then something else came up and they wanted to participate, then they might as well just get a license. But most of these vendors that I'm working with are a one-time operation, and they're small. They may do well, they may not do well, and it's a lot of paperwork and follow-up. They would still have to pay the state sales tax of 6% and the 1% municipality tax. Each vendor would still have to pay that. If this is something that the council would like to pursue, I would like to review with you all the permit application that I've been working on, and then the little application that goes along with that for the other vendors.
Any questions? I have a question. I don't know if it's for Patty, but I'm confused a little bit about special events. So all special events are approved by town council?
They should be. They should be. And I think with this form that I'm working on, and we'd have to get this information out, you can't have these pop-up events. And the form states that you have to notify the town at 60, could be 90. We have to massage that number. But that way the council, it would come across your desk, and the council would be aware, the police department would be aware, and the general public would be aware that something is happening. Now, right now, working at the town hall, I think I've done 6 weddings at the gazebo. And basically, when they call and ask if they can use the park, the answer is yes, because it's a public space. But if we had something like an event permit application, we could charge a fee that we determine is the amount that you would like to charge. And that could go towards any special time that Larry may have to be there to wipe the gazebo down, make sure the plants are in good shape. We always make sure that the lawn is cut. So that's an example. There was another tour that popped up. I can't remember, but there was very little advance notice. And it would have been nice if we had advance notice. Now, the fee could be waived by the council or not. It would be on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I just had a question about, like, the women's club does their plant sale, they do their flea market thing. I got the Harpers Ferry Bolivar Historic Foundation does several antique events, selling the events, and these could be more than quarterly for one. But I don't see vendors per se involved in them.
No, I agree, Christian, you're correct, but I think it would be something that would be an educational experience for everybody, but why not? I mean, Parks and Rec, before COVID, we did 7 events a year, and we went through the licensing process, and our vendors luckily all had Harpers Ferry Town business licenses. So that kind of, filtered itself out, but it's mainly for like the Flip Flop Festival. And again, Old Time Christmas, those vendors really should be licensed or under this program. It would be nice if we had the advance notice from all the other organizations in town, because they're not falling under Parks and Rec. If you think that's too granular, that's up to the council. But I think it's a good program to take a look at.
I think administratively, this is, first of all, the town council has to approve all events. I think that's going to be a little administratively difficult for the town council, specifically if somebody needs to do an event 3 weeks from today. We're not meeting until after, and that
But-
event can't be approved.
Planning process, Christian, and people should plan and we kind of know some of the ones. I mean, we know the Women's Club does their herb fair in May, and we know they typically do the yard sale in the fall, October. But why would you not include
Sometimes things-
everybody instead of a one-off?
I just feel like I can see the town official events doing this for the town, like all your park and rec activities. I think we've got to think further about outside of the town events. Like in
Well,
people's
again-
property, for instance,
again, the big
B&B
one-
having a party or something at their place. How much control does the town want over that?
No, if you're having a party, you're having a party. These are types of events that come through. Even the marathons, to get more information. I mean, if you look at the form that I'm working on, it gets really specific. So we know, do we have to close the street? You know, are you having an event? Are you having a porta party? Are you having this, that, and the other? Yes, it might be overkill for some events, but not others.
I think it's tough for the town council to approve. I would like the staff to make that decision on something. And it's just, I feel like
Well, there could be something in an ordinance that sets a threshold so that it's not, a few people gathering in their yard won't be subject to it, that it's defined in a way that I think, Pat, addresses your concerns about the town being burdened by events that are coming in and require attention. But does that sound like something that Christian would allay your concerns?
I'm just concerned about the town council approving it. I think that's going to be a little difficult. I think if we get guidelines, I would rather than the staff make that decision or the mayor makes a decision.
And we could do that with the event form that you would have to fill out. And that's where you would address that particular procedure.
And
But
Pat,
that sounds different than what we're doing here tonight. Tonight, this looks like you need this temporary license, which I agree is very important for a vendor who's only been here once or twice, but it's kind of morphed into something we're not seeing here. We're seeing like events, getting them approved.
Yeah, and also along with that is the fact that the women's club, churches, those would be tax exempt and not subject to a business license.
But we got charitable on here.
that's right.
Well, no,
That's
that's
what my
special
question
event
was.
is charitable.
Okay, so I'm just saying we've got a whole different ordinance, I think we need to work on.
No, that's my understanding is that the vendors would be businesses coming in to sell for the
This I agree.
festivals or events organized by the foundation or whatever.
I think, Chris Craig,
I was saying tonight, we could do this, but when it comes to events, every event getting approved in town by the town council, I think it's gonna be really, we're gonna get bogged down. We got enough. Not that I'm saying they're not important, but maybe we give guidelines.
Well, there still needs to be a check because, without some sort of oversight, it could be abused potentially.
Correct, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody's holding a wedding, there's gonna be 50 guests on somebody's property. You better believe, I think the town should be engaged in that. I think the police department definitely needs to know, Larry maybe, but maybe even there's a way to notify the neighbors. As common courtesy, literally, but I'm not sure, Patty, it should be the town council making that decision. It'd be informed of it, but I think the staff should.
Well, what
could
you're
be happening.
discussing, Kristen, really is not part of what you're looking at tonight. It is part of the next step. And
Yeah.
and that is something that, we haven't vetted out yet. I haven't shared that with the mayor, and that's where we could vet that out. It could be the mayor and, the office coordinator. And then we let the town council know what's going on.
And I just don't want our meetings to get, we're gonna spend an hour approving 3 or 4 events and there's discussion and we may have the vendor, the event person coming in.
Well, I mean, something handled like we handle the checks where they could be presented by a committee as a batch and, be able to look it over. Kevin, do you have something that will break this coordinated knot?
I have a comment and question. So, Pat, I appreciate this research you've done because I can see how complicated it can be and that you've looked at these other towns and how they handled this. And I'm wondering, did you see a difference in the way the wording of their ordinances were with regard to the charitable, is it a charitable organization is one set of rules and a for-profit, a for-profit event would be another set of rules? Did you see that in what you've researched?
No, I did not. And what I presented to ordinance review was pretty much the Martinsburg language. I mean, I do have Charlestown and Percival. They were much more voluminous. I think Martinsburg kind of had it in a nutshell. We're not going to get 50 events, but it's just a way to help streamline the Flip Flop Festival, which is an annual event, Old Time Christmas, which is an annual event, to help streamline them to get their vendors under their umbrella to come and participate at an event in Harpers Ferry. I would extend it to the marathon people that I've been talking to and the weddings, because they all ask, do you have a permit? And it's like, well, no, but if we had a permit, I think we would benefit from that.
I agree. Kevin? Yeah, what I was about to say would add on to what Pat was saying there in response to Laurel's question. The ordinance that you have before you really is mostly verbatim from Martinsburg's ordinance. And I looked at ordinances from other cities across the state as well, and also Purcellville's ordinance. Some of them are worded very much like ours, where the city council or town council approves special events. In other cases, Morgantown, Charleston have what's called an itinerant vendor license, which is a similar concept, that the city council doesn't approve a special event. Those licenses are approved at a staff level, but they're very, very restrictive, very specific. They have requirements that go above and beyond, in some ways, what a normal business license would require. So there are a couple of ways to do this. I think that the ordinance that Pat forwarded to us, though, is the most simple way to do it. Even though these special events would require the approval of the town council, I don't know that for a town the size of Harpers Ferry, there's really a better way for us to do this.
Yeah, if it does become something where it's more frequent, then we would develop a process to take the onus off of the town council directly.
Well,
yeah, well, the only problem I see with this right now is approved by a special event by the town council. We don't have that yet. We don't, like even Old Time Christmas still technically hasn't been approved. Budget, we're paying our fair share, but it's not been quote approved. But you don't have reforms yet. You don't have.
I don't think we've ever approved that. When we approved the financial allocation. Right. When we approved the financial allocation, we could designate it as a special event. Same way with Flip Flop Festival, we could designate that as a special event. The marathon, same way. I don't know that it's really creating a lot more difficulty for us.
Yeah, if it's laid out well, it's clear and it's publicized, it's available on the website, that anybody looking for the information can find it, so there won't be impediments.
Well, not for the business side, I don't have a problem with that, but it's the approval of the events. That's what I'm getting concerned about, and there is a fair amount of them. I mean, we have not approved any as a town council that I'm aware of. I mean, the only events that we have approved are the ones that are approved by Parks and Rec. We approved all those events. On the Ridge, the Oktoberfest when we had it, the beer fest, yeah, that's.
Well, I think what Pat is saying is that there are other things that come to the office on not an extraordinary basis, but routinely enough, that having this in the town's back pocket can facilitate them in a positive way.
But I'm not against that. I'm not against it.
But Christian, your concern is 73539A, the last two words.
Right.
Well, then let's change the last two words to by the mayor.
Yeah.
Or under the authority of the
Yeah,
town
or the
council.
mayor or the mayor's designee. Or something like that. I mean, I see your point regarding getting a body of 7 together to do. Mayor's here every day, or a designee of the mayor's here every day.
That's what I want, is somebody who can make a quick decision rather than wait a whole month before I.
And then what the mayor would do, is advise the council at the next meeting.
Yeah.
What was approved. You got any issue with that, Patty?
No, so in A, you would change that, the special event by the mayor and or his designee. That would be perfect.
Yeah, let's do that.
That seem okay, Kevin?
And can we do that and still pass it as a first reading tonight, Kevin?
Oh, yeah, we can make any modifications we want before first reading.
Well, no hazard to that would be an unaccountable mayor,
What about leaving in town council and just adding mayor and or his or her designate?
And council Canal,
Whatever just leaves the option for council to do.
Town council, comma, mayor, comma, or the mayor's designee.
that's fine.
Yeah, if the mayor doesn't want to do it, he feels uncomfortable, or a conflict of interest.
It'd be town council in conjunction with the mayor.
I just don't want to overcomplicate this.
I know.
We're not going to be inundated with these things. We're not a class 4 municipality, so.
And Patty, you're gonna have a form for the mayor then to sign, right?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, what we're doing is really helping to solve the difficulties of all of these small vendors that come into town for these events that want to participate. And they're not making a lot of money at these events, but they want to participate. And we don't want to discourage them from coming to participate. But getting a Harpers Ferry business license just for some reason freaks them out. And then they have to get their West Virginia business registration certificate. And a lot of these are very small operators. So this would really be a generous way to help our other organizations move this along.
What I'm going to do is, by the town council, comma, or the mayor and or his or her designee.
That's fine.
So if we're all okay with that, then the motion to approve first reading, you could say as amended.
I move to approve ordinance number 2022-03. I'm sorry, the first reading of 2022-03 as amended.
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Wow, okay. Patty, while you're online, go ahead and take Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Did you notice how that fell in the agenda, one after the other? Gee, how smart. Anyway, I'm here for Parks and Rec. We would like to request funding for our Easter egg hunt that we are going to hold this year on April 16th. It will be held at the park at 575 Washington Street where the gazebo is. And initially, when we submitted our budget last year, we asked for $150. And what I'd like to do, if at all possible, since we have spent no money or very little money this year, is ask for an additional sum to bring it up to $250. So that's what I'm here to ask.
I move to approve up to $250 under 906 Arts and Humanities, originally allocated as $150, requesting additional funding to inflation. That's not bad. Is that word salad?
Sorry, that's right.
Due to increasing cost.
Yes.
That's more than 7.9.
All right, how much are we?
Up to $250.
There we go.
All right, thank you. Second on the motion. Second, a second from Jim. Any discussion on the motion?
Let me repeat that motion to make sure that we're okay. So that would be a motion to approve up to $250 for the 2022 Easter egg hunt from 906 Arts and Humanities.
That's exactly what I said.
There, and we had a second, and there was no discussion. All those in favor of the motion.
All right.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Okay. All right. Jim did.
Jim, thank you.
Parking committee, Christian.
Parking committee. Okay, I'm just going to inform you, where am I? Okay, so parking committee met first time in a long time, March 4th, and we had our formal meeting, and then we had a field meeting on March 11th. So what I'm going to talk about is briefly what happened. We are working on taping, retaping well, we're actually going to tape lines on those parking lines and add some signage, and particularly on Potomac Street. And we've got our new Park Mobile signs. I have them. I'm going to get ready to install them. We have I'll skip this one. And then field, we did a field inspection, like I said, on Friday. Then we have a pending contract with Park Mobile. We've never signed a contract with these guys. So they're working on a contract, and they're going to, from 2016, when we got aboard with them, we just got aboard. And apparently, according to them, there's no contract. So they're working with their attorney to draft one, and they'll present it to us someday. Who knows for sure. Also, as a reminder, everybody, please, all residents listening in here, get your parking decals. We've got our representative who takes them right here, our clerk, Melissa. But let me go over the mailbox rack thing. Parking committee has made a change. We have decided to lower our costs quite a bit by actually just moving the existing mailboxes and clustering them a little closer together and moving 4 sections of them closer to the corners or the ends of the street. By doing so, we should get an additional 4 to 5 additional parking spots. A parking spot in Camp Hill is worth $1,280 per year. So that'll be additional revenue to the town just by relocating the boxes. We estimate, I don't know, we're going to have Larry do it. I'll probably help them. And we're just going to take them out of the ground, put new posts on them, paint them black, put them into the ground with cement, put them at the proper heights that's required by the the Postal Service as a regulation height and a certain distance off the road. We got boxes all over the place. They're like an S. If you look down the road, we have boxes that are too far close to the road. So when we move them, we're gonna place them properly. And we're going to talk to every owner or resident, and we're going to use the existing boxes. We're not gonna build racks. We're going to actually build new posts. Someday, we would like to do racks, but that's a big effort and a lot more money. We figure we'll do that another day.
Okay. Good. Questions for Christian?
I have a question. I think those plans are wonderful. And I'm a person who has a box on the street. But I want to ask if there's any part of this that could, I mean, there is something endearing about the irregularity of the boxes. And to think of them all in regulation order, military drill style is a little, to me, takes a little bit away from that, endearing quality of being a little bit random. Although the whole principle here is to gain parking spaces, which is what we're after. So is there a possibility of allowing some sort of owner, can specialize his box, maybe not the placement of it, because that's the key issue here, is the exact placement, because we want to increase the parking space, but just something that would make it special that the owner could do.
Well, I can tell you, some of those boxes have been there so long, they're even there before the existing numbering system is there. Yeah, and a lot of boxes are leaning quite a bit as well over time, but the boxes, we're actually going to ask people if you want to change your box to a bigger box. This is before Amazon. Most of the people have weenie boxes.
And you're not talking about standardizing boxes.
No.
So
we're going to use existing boxes. We're just going to change the poles, and that's not even all of them. It's only the ones that need to be tightened up. We're not changing every one.
It'll still be pretty funky, just a different funky.
Yeah.
I just think attention should be paid to that. We don't want it to look too much in order, because it is something nice about a small town to see a little irregularity.
Well, I'll put a little compliment out to the box owners right across from the ATC headquarters. There's four, I think maybe 5 boxes. They have black poles. They're all brand new too. And that's another thing. We're getting a lot of new residents, and they keep adding boxes to the street. That's what's going on. They're starting to stretch out, and we're losing parking spots. So that's why we need to convince it.
And actually, when you walk up through Bolivar, they have them clustered more. And I've actually taken pictures of them like that, because it is kind of neat, because each box is a little different. So it's not the same as them just being strung down the street, but it's definitely not regimented. I don't think that's what we're talking about.
But we have no problem with them painting their box. If they want to even paint the pole, I guess, was okay. But we just thought it would be cleaner to be black, be neutral.
Yeah, well, I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea, and I'm all for it. I just,
the town will do it.
To allow individuality in the box is probably important to me. That's
I'm
what
just have to say, I like individualization too, but as a former member of the military, I'm also organization than uniformity. The questions I had though were, geez, what was I going to say now?
Keep Harpers Ferry weird. That's what you're going to say.
The post office is okay with us doing
That
it.
was one of my questions.
And I talked to our postal, Chris, who does our deliveries, and he said, all I ask, don't change the order of the boxes. So we'll keep them in the same sequence.
And then how far from the corners would they be?
We had the chief out there with us, and we discussed how far. We're looking. We're trying to get to the corner. We can't get all the way to the corner because we have to have sight lines so people can see. Yeah, we don't have it quite to feet, but we're going to be cognizant of that. I'm not kidding.
We'll probably improve it, because it might be moving the boxes to where people would park. Then you wouldn't have cars parked there. Instead, you'd have the boxes.
Yeah, it's illegal to park in front of a mailbox. That's the problem. That's how we're losing parking spots. And so we're just going to tighten it up. There was no regulation. No, everybody just saw an old box there, and they said, well, I'm going to put a box there. And you know what? They may even put more boxes up. That's what I was a little worried about with the rack. Honestly, I was like, they're going to fill the racks up. What am I going to do now? You know?
Well, one of the other things that I wanted to ask about was how in depth had the committee considered the idea of racks. And the reason I asked that is because a couple of years ago, and I still have this brochure at home, I spoke to Wendy, the postmaster here, about racks. Because as you know, those of us that live on peripheral streets do not have delivery to our houses, and it creates a problem when we get shipments sometimes, because we don't know whether to give a postal address or a physical address for a shipment, and then if it goes the wrong way, then it gets sent back to wherever it came from, and it's a big problem. So one of the solutions that was mentioned during my conversation with the postmaster was racks, the mailbox racks on Washington Street, since there is mail delivery on Washington Street. For instance, those of us on Cliff Street can have a mailbox on Washington Street with our Cliff Street address.
Sure. I'm on a Fillmore and I have one on Washington. Yeah. It's just the rack is, I had a design, I got a person actually want to storms people who's a blacksmith, stonemason, all this, and I was going to come up with some really cool rack design, but this thing was morphing into expense and it was going to take time. So this is just so this year we can get the boxes moved over. We may visit with these racks in a year or two. The one thing I will not do is cluster boxes. I'm never going to do cluster boxes. I used to have a house with a cluster, the boxes, and they're all doors on them and stuff. They're big in California.
Yeah.
We're not going there. No cluster boxes.
Yeah, the Harpers and Shannon.
Okay, anything else?
Anything else? There's no motions.
No. Thank you, Christian. Is anybody in planning commission?
Yeah. We're so used to Tim.
Yeah, just a few important things to mention here. At the February meeting, the Planning Commission discussed, we had initiated contact with the WVU Land Use Legal Clinic about helping us with our comprehensive plan. And we received mainly positive feedback from most of the commission members, and all of them were encouraged to go out and research other options, and including the fees. So that's where we are with that. We had also, I had also submitted the full cost of what the land clinic's regular fee would be for the town of Harpers Ferry to have their services for the comprehensive plan. And so that's before budget and finance, and we're still kind of figuring numbers on that. The Storm came in, was kind enough to re-present his PowerPoint on stormwater issues in Harpers Ferry and Bolivar. And so I think we have some good eager interest on the planning commission about that cause. And the latest on that now is that Megan Deal from Region 9 has presented 2 proposals to be reviewed at the end of this month. And I believe Storm's going to be here for that, it sounds like, as well.
Yes. Very slight change, jury duty will pull me away.
And if he can't make it, I will be there. And then Steve Perry from the Bolivar Council will be on that as well. There were, as Kevin had mentioned a month or 2 ago, there were some questions that came up with the fence ordinance about our permitting procedures. We still need to visit with our town lawyer about that a bit, and maybe with you as well. So that'll be something that can come up. Both questions about do we need to change any of our codes, or can just procedures be changed that will satisfy the legal requirements? And also, how urgent is it? Some of the things that were reviewed during the comprehensive plan review might be it might be a good time to do that if it can be put off a while. And then the last thing was about a special meeting, actually. This permit application on Henry Clay Street. We had a special meeting just to address the alteration of the town right of way for a parking spot, which of course has been done many times. Sometimes with town approval as it should be, and oftentimes not. But
Midnight approval.
yeah, we did recommend approval. However, we did it too late to get to this meeting. So maybe at that special meeting coming up, we'll be recommending that for passage for the town council.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Okay, historic landmarks. I don't know if is Guy here? Pardon? He's not, okay.
I was on it, we had a meeting. but,
Okay.
It was a good meeting and I'm not sure what exactly.
Okay. Organization, other reports. Chris, you wanted to mention something?
Yeah, I was on the Canal Town Partnership meeting this past week. And had a wonderful report from Joe Reed, who is the principal engineer for the CNO National Historical Park. And that report, that whole report is something that you might want to listen to. It's really has some exciting things going on in the canal. But two really affect us big time in Harpers Ferry that I wanted to mention. One, I'm very excited that the last study, which was a hydraulic study for a ramp on the Byron Bridge, the CNO end of it. Basically, the ramp designs that they were presenting gained approval from that study. So that was the big holdup, that it can withstand a 100-year flood or 500-year flood, whatever that is now. And so that'll be going to the park. They're going to start looking at money for construction. And so get ready. We may, I think we ought to look, Maryland's been very, very generous on that bridge. And we ought to be looking for some West Virginia sources as well, maybe with some matching money. The other thing that will be coming up, mainly next year, I believe, is that they are going to be rebuilding the canal wall along Harpers Ferry Road, just opposite town. And that will involve closing Harpers Ferry Road for a good chunk of time. If you have been over there, you may have seen the remarks. That the wall is really collapsing, and of course the wall is what's holding up the road. So anyway, that I think he mentioned pretty much 2023, but just to be aware of that.
Well, you got the right year.
Yeah.
That was party.
Maybe we did at the same time.
Yeah, 3, 4, yeah, geez.
And then Trail and Town was going to do a cleanup this past weekend on the CNO, and that got bumped because of the weather. We're going to try again on the 26th. So if any of you are interested in picking up trash,
I could do it.
just downstream from the bridge. Yeah, and you're getting my emails, right?
Okay, thanks, Chris. Let's go to, I'll finish this number 7. Discussion action on reopening town hall office for public representatives. I had a staff meeting with the staff chair, I don't know, last week sometime. And this was a topic of conversation, and we think we're at the point of opening up the public to come in and do business. The person that's mostly affected by this, obviously, is the water department. And so I know she is anxious to move in that direction. That keeps her from, every time there's a doorbell buzzing or somebody knocking on the door downstairs, she has to constantly run up and down the steps. So with that door out here with the plexiglass, and she feels very comfortable on that. So I think we ought to consider opening the town offices at this particular point in time.
I'm just looking at, they have, you know, county by county ratings, and where Jefferson County is right now.
The National Park Service just had a big change this past week, allowing, or making masks optional in interiors.
Yep, on the city side now, right, Jefferson County, West Virginia is a low risk area.
You know, one of the things we can also, you know, if we're in agreement to this, somewhere down the line, maybe if they still need an opportunity to work, maybe like have a half a day Friday, we would close the office, or maybe a full day, but we can, you know, I can deal with that later on. We'll just see how this works. So I'm just recommending that we open up to business. And then maybe sometime in the future, we ought to look at town council meetings. I think when we have that discussion, one of the things I think that we should seriously look at is the occupancy level in here. Because we certainly don't know what's going to be the next variant that's going to come down the road, but we probably will have one. And I just don't want to be thrust back into where we were. I know this is a really not a pleasurable opportunity for Verlissa and Debbie to have to come in here and do all this sort of stuff. So the sooner we can get to the public, the better off we can be. But I'm not sure we want to open this up to the gang of thousands, Kevin, that we had before and meetings prior to COVID. But I think we should set some very strict requirements in this room on the numbers of people allowed in here. Anyway, that's down the road. But I'm concentrating right now more on the business end of it. And it would principally be at the door behind Storm, coming up those steps there as before. And most of it, again, correct me if I'm wrong, or let's hear Debbie, is water business. Yeah.
A little bit in perspective of some of the talk about too, for safety. Right now, if we have to go down the steps, we turn on the mask, we go down, and the person's right there and go, nobody with us. Some of them refuse to wear a mask. At the top of the door, we do at least have that flexi between us, and they're not invading their personal space as much. So that was something else that we thought about when we discussed it, because we do feel like we have more partition upstairs than we do downstairs.
And of course, Melissa has that when she is downstairs. You come into the police, you know that there is that plexiglass there. So I just throw that out for discussion for you guys, and guys. That's what I'm recommending.
I think it sounds like a good plan. I do have one question that is a kind of a side issue, but it's related to it. What do we have available for people who can't handle the steps right now? Would they call ahead and work out the elevator?
Ring the doorbell, we're working out with them, we can use the elevator.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, there are a couple of those. And pre-COVID, I'm sure you had some kind of a system, and you too. I mean, I don't know what it was at that particular time, but.
No, because there is someone who can't make up the steps, we can't go down and talk to them.
Yeah.
It just, the majority of people, think they have that need. But it does provide us a little bit more protection of the petition. And I'm looking to the public downstairs at the police department, but we're not up here. And it's pretty much the same security measures, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's premature to declare mission accomplished on defeating COVID, but that said, it's always about what is the actual data, what are the hospitalizations, what are the rates of infection. So I think it's important that, I think it probably is responsible to open to the public at this point in time, but to keep an eye on it, because that can change very quickly.
Absolutely.
And before it shows up here, it's going to show up someplace else.
So without any strong opposition from the 7 or the 6 of you, well, that's what I will proceed with. And we'll just monitor it closely, and if we need to tweak it a little bit, we'll tweak it. Okay, that's all I had. Motion to adjourn. We're going to set an all-time record here. This is unbelievable. We have a motion. I have a second on the motion. I have a second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? All those in favor of adjourning? Thank you. Holy moly, 8:37, man. This is a national record.
That's a record.
Okay.
10 o'clock.
Sounds good.
And if you're all parking spots, the
Thank you,
country will walk across.
Thank you, Melissa.
With trash bags and gloves.